Good afternoon once again, folks. Talking about ordering percents, decimals, and fractions, PDF for short. Not that PDF, not portable document file. This isn't a computer, this is Mr. K. This is old school math. So let's take a look. The hint that I want to present to you at the very beginning before doing any examples is to make the values that you're trying to order, or compare for that matter, the same. Make them all speak the same language. If you prefer that everything looks like a decimal, then make them all look like a decimal. Use those conversion strategies that we talked about in class and that we practiced in class and that we practiced at home, and make everything look the same. If you like percents, great. If you like fractions, you're weird, but that's okay. Overall, it just makes everything easier to order if everything is speaking the same language. So I have two examples here. I'm going to start with the least to greatest example. I'll try not to block too much. We have 2/5 as a fraction, 52 hundredths as a decimal, 25%, and 25 thousandths. And it looks like I have two values that are already as a decimal, so that's great. I'm going to just kind of arrow them down. But I need to address the 25% and the 2/5. Notice how all the numbers are very similar in here. I'm trying to confuse you, actually, because it doesn't matter what the numbers look like as long as you get them into the same language or the same form. The values will kind of appear as a result. Just because this says 2/5 does not mean that it's going to have a decimal value that has a 2 or even a 5 in it. We have to do some conversion work here. 2/5, I like to do a little shortcut with that, and I like to multiply both of the numerator and the denominator by 2. So when I do that, 2 times 2 is 4, and 2 times 5 is 10. And 4/10, the way I say that is actually the same way that I would write it as a decimal. So that would be 4/10. So I'm going to call that 0 and 4/10. Okay. I have 52 hundredths. That's done. Leave that alone for now. I have 25%. And if I convert a percent to a decimal, I'm going to move the decimal 2 places to the left. 1, 2. There is an invisible decimal after that whole number 5. It's not visible in the percent, but it is a whole number percent. I'm going to move the decimal 2 places to the left. I have what looks like 0 and 25 hundredths. And you know, I'm going to clean this up a little bit right here. I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to bring up that 0 and 4/10. Reason being, I need this extra room here. So this is the same, this is changed, and this is the same. So we have enough information to start putting things in order from least to greatest. I did a little shorthand on the example work, so my apologies. What do you think is the first value that needs to be placed in this order from least to greatest? Okay. Are you looking at the tenths place value? Because that's pretty much where things start to get different. Looks like everything has a 0 in it for the ones place value, so there's no help there. But if I look at the tenths place value, I have 4 here, a 5 here, a 2 here, and a 0 here. Obviously, the one that is smallest is very good. It's going to be 0, so we're going to, I'm just going to put a little slash through this, and I'm going to call that my smallest value. Okay, so I'm starting to put things in order now. I'll put a little line here so you can see where the answer is supposed to pop out. Which is the next, I guess, smallest number? Is it going to be 25 hundredths? Is it going to be 4/10? Is it going to be 52 hundredths? If you're still looking at the tenths place value, you're going to say that it's 25% because 2 is obviously smaller than 4 or 5. Again, we're still looking at the tenths place value. I have a 4 here, a 5 here, and it starts to kind of become obvious what the rest of the values are. So I made a mistake there. I'll write the 2/5 fraction that we started with, and then we have 52 hundredths here. Okay, and there will be my answer in least to greatest form. Notice how I use the original values to keep that order. It's a little bit confusing sometimes when you're trying to answer a test question or a quiz question, and you have everything converted, but you don't have things reconverted or at least brought back down when you're trying to find the answer. So that leads to a little bit of confusion. If you get stuck, ask, and I can clarify it for you a little bit on a test or quiz. But remember, you're in charge of your work. Let's look at this opposite example. I call it an opposite example because instead of it being least to greatest, it's greatest to least. So we're still coming up with an order, but we have to come up with the reverse order. So people say to me, well, why can't I just get it in least to greatest order and then flip it around? And I say to them, sure, sounds good. Let's do that. So you can order things whatever way you want to, but make sure that you follow the directions of the question and actually get it in the order they ask it for. Because, to be honest, when I write test questions and quiz questions, I'm going to write it such that I have an answer choice that is least to greatest and greatest to least, because I want to see if you're paying attention. I want to see if you're reading the question. Make sure you read the question. So let's take a look at these. I'm going to start converting these relatively quickly here. If you want to pause now and you want to figure them out yourself, feel free to do that. And I'm going to start now. So I'm going to convert this 6/10. It's going to turn into 0 and 6/10. That's just the way you say it is the way you write it. This is 61%, so I'm going to do a decimal move. And this is going to be 61 hundredths. Obviously 0 and 61 hundredths. I have 0 and 16 hundredths right here. You can notice how everything starts to sound kind of similar when you have all the same digits in there, so it does get kind of confusing. You have to take your time and ask questions. And I have a decimal value 1 and 6/10. Now again, it says greatest to least. So what's the biggest value? Think about money. Would you rather have 60 cents, 61 cents, 16 cents, or what looks like $1.60? Obvious question once again. It's $1.60. So I'm going to cross this off. I'm going to bring this down to my answer. Here's my answer, 1 and 6/10, because I'm looking for the greatest value. What's the next greatest value? Okay, it's going to be 61 hundredths, which is 61% actually. I have 6/10 as my next value. Think about how much money it costs to get a pack of chips or cookies or whatever. 6/10, and then the last value is going to be 16 hundredths. Okay. Could you start off with the smallest value and work your way forward and then flip around the answer? Absolutely. Just be careful that you don't forget to do that last step. If you forget to reorder things in the prescribed order of the question, you're going to probably get it wrong. Be careful. Take your time and do what the question says. Again, if you have any further questions, comments, or concerns, don't be afraid to bring them up in class. If you watch this and you're watching it at home or on your smartphone or some other technologically advanced device, make sure that you take some sort of feedback down so that we can talk about it in class. And have a great day.